We grow when we give.
We grow when we give.
We grow when we give.
Nosotros crecemos cuando damos.
We grow when we give.
与えるとき、成長する。
We grow
when we give. Welcome to ROG, Return on Generosity. I'm your host, Shannon Cassidy. This podcast celebrates generosity at work, not financial giving valuable time, mutual respect, alternative perspectives, and genuine collaboration. This ROG special series, Accessible Voices, honors National Disability Employment Awareness Month by offering awareness, appreciation, and respect for individuals and communities experiencing the challenges of being a professional with a disability. Our special guest today, Kyle Coon, is a personal friend. His father, Steve, served in the U.S. Marines with my husband, Mike. Steve and his wife, Anne Marie, are treasured personal friends. Kyle has so many remarkable things about him, including most recently being a member of Team USA. He represented the United States in the Paralympic Games and won his first elite international gold medal at the World Triathlon Paris Series opener. Kyle lost his sight at the age of 6 after a battle with retinoblastoma, cancer of the eye. However, not having sight has not stopped him from pursuing vision. Since then, he has become a competitive rock climber, downhill skier, runner, and triathlete. Welcome to ROG, Kyle. It's amazing to connect with you.
Thanks for having me, Shannon. Really happy to be here, and thanks for reaching out.
Absolutely. You are a treasured friend as well, and I'm so thankful for this time together. And I want to learn more. I devoured your book, Discovering a Life Without Limits. In there, I learned so much more about you. So why don't we just start with a little history of Kyle? Can you give us some background?
Yeah, for sure. I'll try to keep it brief, but no, like you said in the intro there, I was diagnosed with a rare form of eye cancer, retinoblastoma, when I was just 10 months old, and basically went through the first 5 or 6 years of my life in and out of the hospital, doing just a ton of treatment, and radiation, chemo. A bunch of experimental stuff, and eventually it was the cancer. It would die off, and then it would come back stronger than ever. And eventually, you get to a point where there's not the eyes were basically so damaged due to the treatment that they were basically useless. So I had to have my left eye removed when I was 5 years old. And then just about a year and a half later, just before I turned 7, I had to have my right eye removed. And, obviously, when you're a kid, in and out of the hospital all the time, I wasn't really, hey, cancer is bad. This can kill me. Or I wasn't thinking, one of the end results of this, could be that, I'm going to lose my eyesight. It was really, hey, doctor, can you make me better so I can go outside and play with my friends? So like once I lost my sight completely, I definitely struggled with that. Would sit in my room and, listen to my friends outside playing basketball or riding their bikes or, stuff like that. And I thought I wasn't going to be able to ever join them in that again. But I was very, very fortunate that through some connections with family friends and the Brotherhood of the Marine Corps, my dad was introduced to Ed Weihenmayer, whose son Erik is an elite adventure athlete who also happens to be totally blind, and they connected us. And I met this crazy blind guy who was a mountaineer, downhill skier, skydiver, and this was before he became became the first blind man to climb Mount Everest. So, and Erik just kind of, sat down and talked to me a little bit and told me, hey, just because you're blind doesn't mean you can't do anything. I want you to, just live your life just like you would. And like, all you have to do is, make a few changes here and there. So he really encouraged me to go out and try rock climbing. I did, fell in love with it. Yeah. It's just, it just kind of snowballed from there, going from one thing to the next.
Right. Because in 2006, you climbed Machu Picchu. In 2007, Kilimanjaro. I mean, at these young ages, you were like 14, 15 years old. You were doing these incredible adventures. And Erik's leadership and mentorship really, I think, was so pivotal for you.
He's been a big mentor in my life, since I lost my sight, and just so many. I learned so many lessons from him over the years, and just brief conversations with him, and he's still such a mentor of mine. In that I can pick up the phone and shoot him a text message or give him a call almost any time, as long as he's in the country, not doing something crazy. So,
right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so many lessons. And what are some things that come to mind when you think about things that he taught you that you now know are absolutely true, and now you teach other people?
I think one of the biggest things is just look, there's always a path forward. There's never a wall that you come to and it's impossible to get through. If you can't go straight through, the obstacle or barrier in your way, then there's a way around it, or, maybe you just have to climb up and over it. So I think that's really that's probably one of the biggest things that he's taught me over the years, especially, because, obstacles and adversity, they're placed in our path every single day. And we've got to, be creative enough to let our minds expand, to find ways around those obstacles and harness the power of that adversity, and use it to fuel us.
One of his quotes that you share in your book is, "Goals seem like false summits. You reach the top of one just to find another one a little higher." So it's that always reaching, always finding the next thing to conquer.
I have taken that quote, very to heart. And it's crazy because I've been competing in triathlon now for full time now for almost 3 years, but I started doing triathlon back in 2015 as just it's just a hobby. Every time I accomplished something that I wanted to do in triathlon, I never seemed quite satisfied, and I was always had my sights set on something a little higher. So I went and set a world record at the Ironman distance, and then set the sights on making the Paralympic team, trying to chase a medal at the Paralympics, all that stuff. And every time if I just come up a little bit short, or if I hit one goal, then it's I got an eye on one that's just a little bit higher and a little bit harder, and it's definitely keeping the fire going.
Absolutely. Yes. And after representing the U.S. in the Paralympic Games this year in Japan, what is that next summit for you?
Well, I mean, so, in Tokyo, I fell short of my goal. My goal was to come home with a medal. So I took fifth, in Tokyo. And, so, the next goal is, to go, to make it back to the games. So I'm starting my journey toward Paris in 2024. And this time it is to come home with a medal. But, there's some other goals sprinkled in there. I want to come home with a world championship medal. I want to, do some other sporting endeavors, but the big focus is getting back to Paris and coming home with some hardware this time. That's the thing. That's every goal that I'm setting for myself between now and 2024 is has to kind of support me bringing home hardware in Paris.
Yes. So what I'm hearing you say, Kyle, and something I know about you is your ability to have vision. And I know you talk about that a lot, is that you don't need sight to have vision, and you set your sight on a goal and you get fully committed to it. And then you say, okay, what are milestones along the way? You continually learn, and you keep that in mind. What is the thing I'm after? And I think that that's something that all of our listeners can apply to their own lives, is get clear about what it is that you want, and then just be relentless about the pursuit of it.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I actually, it was something that was so, I needed to have such a clear focus on that, I created my own little hashtag, on it. And, and that's Iron Vision. And basically it's spelled like IEYE and then RON Vision. And I got my start in triathlon, pursuing the Ironman distance triathlons. And, I like wordplay. So I was looking at that and I was like, man, like if I just know what I want and I have this relentless pursuit of it, all I'm doing is keeping an eye on my vision and, making sure that everything, all my goals, all my objectives, everything that I do aligns with, pursuing that overarching vision. Then all I'm doing is just keeping an eye on my vision. And so that was kind of how my little hashtag came about. And then, it's just one of those, it's one of those things where during pursuit of that overarching vision, or you're going to, encounter things that throw you off the trail, that, throw you off course. I've had, major injuries. I've had, we've had a pandemic, all this kind of stuff that everything tries to derail us. But, you have to be willing to pivot. You have to be willing to improvise and adapt, in order to, overcome those bits of adversity and those obstacles that are put in your path. And keeping an eye on your vision, I found just really helps in staying focused and doing the simple things well. Totally. And then doing the simple things even better.
In the spirit of honoring the National Disability Employment Awareness Month, I think your journey to finding the career that's truly designed for you and the best way for you to utilize your strengths took some overcoming obstacles and dealing with setbacks and challenges and having to pivot and use all kinds of resources to overcome that. But I thought it would be interesting for the listeners to understand what your early experiences were when you were job hunting. And in chapter 17 of your book called Welcome to the Real World, in here you say, the opening quote is that 70% of people who are blind or visually impaired are either not employed or severely underemployed. So what can you teach us around what that was like for you, and for employers who are listening, what they can understand when they're identifying talent who may actually be blind?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those things that, look, I think, people look at blindness, they look at disability, and, there's this little kernel of fear that, like, if I, and they and maybe unconsciously or subconsciously think to themselves like, oh my gosh, like if I were, if I was in this person's position, do this. And like, I'm scared that I could, be in this person's position. And like, I don't think I could do this job that I'm trying to hire them for. So I think a lot of it's just awareness. But, in my early job hunting days, I came out of college and I just thought I was the best thing in the world. I was your, classic millennial, thinking that, I was going to apply and get a job that was basically listed as CEO and above. And then I just, I was like, then once I figured out that, you actually need some experience to be like upper level management, then I just started kind of climbing my way down the corporate ladder. And, it was just time and time again, I would, send in resumes and job applications and all of that. Wouldn't hear back from a lot, which is typical of any job seeker. But then, the interviews that I did actually go to, a lot of them I thought went very well, had a lot of good banter, but then I just wouldn't hear back from the employer, or, it was a job that I could potentially be overqualified for, and, they would not consider me for the position. It was one of those things where I was very rarely, sure, there were a couple of times when, an employer was like, how the heck are you going to do this job? And like, why are you even here? But that was actually a very rare instance. And then, just after a while, jobless for a year, I had lost a lot of hope. And it was just one of those times when, random connections eventually, lead you to the right people. And I was very lucky to get connected with someone who saw some potential in me and, offered me a job basically, on the spot. So I got really lucky in that regard. And then it was just a matter of seizing the bull by the horns and moving my way up through that organization and then moving on to other organizations and eventually making my way to what I do these days.
When we come back, Kyle will share the story of another Kyle Johnson, the person who gave him a chance.
Hello, I'm Marianne Newell, Assistant Director of College Support at St. Joseph University's Kinney Center for Autism Education and Support. Located in Philadelphia, the Kinney Center has a twofold mission: to educate and train the autism professionals of tomorrow while supporting and serving the individuals and families affected by autism today. I'm part of the Aspire College Support Team, helping St. Joseph's University students with autism achieve collegiate success through social and executive functioning support. Learn more about our services by visiting sju.edu/KINNEY.
And we're back with the triathlete, author, and speaker with Iron Vision, Kyle Coon. So tell us a little bit about Kyle Johnson, who I believe is the person that you're referring to.
Yeah, so I actually, I was invited to a luncheon. A local television network had done a story on me during my last year of college, and they invited everyone that they had done stories on to this luncheon. Kyle just came up to me because he had just started work at an organization called Lighthouse Central Florida, which is a vision rehabilitation organization in Orlando, Florida. And he came up, introduced himself to me, and had read a little bit about me in the program. And I just wanted to have a cup of coffee with me to see if I would consider speaking at a Lighthouse fundraising event. And then we met up for coffee a couple of weeks after this initial meeting, and we're just chatting, and he asked me, hey, like, just out of curiosity, what do you do for a living now that you're out of college and living in the real world? And I was like, well, funny that you mentioned it. I'm actually unemployed. I cannot find a job. And he was in the, he had come from a wealth management background and a communication background as well. And my degree was in communication. And he said, well, send me your resume and maybe I'll spread it around and see if I can't help you out a little bit. And then so I sent him my resume, and I found out a couple years later, he was like, yeah, I never had any intention of spreading your resume around. I just printed it off and walked it down to the CFO's office and dropped it on her desk and said, hey, let's hire this guy. So it was one of those things. And then, so I got hired on by Lighthouse Central Florida, working initially in a call center that they were operating, and then moving on upwards, to work at, managing, front desk, managing, quality assurance, and then eventually moving on to work in basically government relations for Lighthouse before getting hired away from Lighthouse to go work for the Department of the Navy. Kyle really took me under his wing while I was at Lighthouse, and just taught me a lot about the nonprofit space, a lot about connecting with people and everything, in between. I think it's just one of those, he's, Kyle, and, the leadership that I've been fortunate to learn from, they are those people that are like, look, we don't want to hold you back. We want to make sure that we boost you up and give you every opportunity to succeed.
Kyle, that is the best definition of what it means to be a generous leader. I mean, that's what we talk about on this podcast and what we try to model. And your personal generosity, I believe, is influenced by those who were generous to you. So I think it's that ripple effect that people can have, and that there was really nothing in it for them to encourage you to take that role of the Navy, but they knew that was what was best for you. And that's exactly what we want to highlight and celebrate on this podcast. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. So before we wrap, I'd love to hear some of your favorite quotes. And for those who pick up Discovering a Life Without Limits, which is Kyle's book, at the very end, you do something that I found just delightful, which was all of these quotes and lessons in life. So I want to pull out two from two of my most favorite people in your life, your parents. So the first one is from your dad, Steve Coon. And his quote is, "It's our attitude that allows us to learn from mistakes. And that in turn enables one to become great beyond imagination." Talk to us about that, Kyle.
Yeah. So my dad really drilled it into me from a very early age that you can't blame people for your circumstances or your situation. And really it's your attitude, that does allow you to, like, look, we're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to have stumbling blocks and roadblocks. And you have to be willing to learn from those mistakes. And if you do, it's funny that, because I'm actually working on a new project where I'm studying this notion of blame. And like, if you do blame others, or you have blame in your life, then that severely stunts your growth opportunities. And and if you have this negative attitude, or this attitude of I don't want to grow, then you ultimately will fall short of being successful and happy. And so so that particular quote from my dad, he's said it many times over the course of my life, and it's one of those things that, look, if you have the right attitude, you can pivot, you can improvise, you can adapt, you can overcome a lot of different obstacles in life.
Thank you for sharing that. And then the last one is from your mom, Anne Marie Coon, and it's "Make good choices." This is particularly a meaningful quote in your family. Tell us about that, Kyle. Make good choices.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things that my mom has said to us from very early ages. I have three sisters, and every time we would walk out the door to go to school, to go to a friend's house, to go to a party, off to college, anything, even to this day, when we walk out the door or anything, mom always just reminds us, hey, make good choices. And I think it's her way of just reminding us, like, hey, think before you act. The choices we make, they're powerful, and they can have this ripple effect. And they, a little choice or decision that you make can change the course of your life and change the course of other people's lives. And if we focus on, making those good choices, then we're able to also, learn from our experiences. And, choice is that's one of the things that's so powerful about being here in the USA, is that we have this incredible freedom to choose our own path. And, it's one of those things that it's been so impactful in our family's life that my sisters and I, we continually joke, like, and I seriously hope we do it at some point, but we all keep joking that eventually we're all going to get tattoos that mirror each other, and that it's just going to say "make good choices." So that's it's such an impactful quote for my sisters and me that we're willing to ink it onto our skin.
Yes, exactly. Oh, so good. That's really, it's powerful, it's simple, and it's so profound for us to think about how every day we have the opportunity to make good choices. And to your point about not blaming, that it's not someone else's fault that we are the CEO of your life. So you are the one responsible for making good choices. Are there tips that you could recommend that our listeners apply from your life's journey?
I think the big one for me is just, look, it comes down to keep an eye on your vision and make good choices to keep yourself on the path of achieving your goals. I think that's really what has helped me be successful. And if you just take away one thing, just keep an eye on your vision and make good choices. And, if you just take away that, I think anyone can be successful in their life and can lead can lead a great life. And that's something that I absolutely, I try to do every day. And I hope other people do as well.
Awesome. Until next week, stay generous, everyone.
Thank you.
ROG takeaway tip: how to apply what we've learned to our own work and lives. Kyle shared thoughts on false summits, vision, relentless pursuit of goals, and choices. Accomplishing a goal is a stepping stone on our journeys, but it can feel like a false summit. Think back to a time in your life when you set your sight on a big goal. Maybe it was a stretch goal that you applied to and you got in, or a career goal. You wanted to manage people or be a managing director or C-suite. Or maybe you had that feeling right before you bought your first car, home, or vacation house. Maybe for you, that big goal was to write a book, compete in a race, or start or even end a relationship. Whatever that thing is for you, you did it. You had a goal, you worked toward accomplishing it, and you did it. Do you remember getting to the quote-unquote summit and thinking, is this it? Is this what success looks like? Kyle taught us, reach your summit, enjoy the view, and then set your sights on the next one to stay motivated. We all have vision that isn't quantified by sight. Dig deep and find your vision. What's driving it? Let's start with your values. What are your core values? Where do you see yourself? What's a 10-year target? Add 10 years to your current age. Where do you see yourself? And then what's the 3-year picture? An activity that you might want to try is creating a vision board. Get a bunch of magazines. Contact a hair salon or a doctor's office and ask for their recycling if you don't currently subscribe to any. And cut out words and images that resonate with you. Glue them to a board and use that as a vision board. Notice what you've clipped. What are you attracted to? What does it look like? Feel like? Who's there with you? What's the 1-year plan? What are milestones on the journey that you could realistically accomplish this year? Write it down. Tell others. Pursue it with focus and conviction. Honor your vision. Embrace it. Be relentless in the pursuit of your vision. And avoid spreading yourself so thin and doing so many things, only some of which are aligned with your vision. Prioritize and give your best energy to the actions that will lead you toward the realization of your vision. And then lastly, make good choices. Every moment is a choice. Think about that. Every moment, including this one, is a choice. You're choosing to listen to ROG all the way through to the end. Thank you. Because of you, we've been rated in the top 5%, up from the top 10% of podcasts worldwide. Thank you for being a listener. Every moment is a choice. And because we're creatures of habit, we often do the same thing over and over, even if we know it's not the best choice. Whatever you do too much of fits into this category. Worry too much, talk too much, drink too much, complain too much. To take this advice to heart, make good choices. What are you willing to tone down, reduce, or stop doing? What are you willing to start doing? And of those habits that you already have that are good choices, what will you continue doing? Today and this week, own your power. You have the self-discipline to make good choices. Of the many choices you'll make this week, find ways to stay generous, everyone.
Thanks for listening to ROG, Return on Generosity Podcast. Please help us grow by subscribing and reviewing us on your favorite podcast player. And for more information, visit bridgebetween.com. We grow when we give.
우리는 나누면서 성숙합니다.
We grow when we give.
On rayonne quand on donne.
We grow when we give.